I'm Instructor Jason, one of the instructors here at Krav Maga Self-Defense. Most of the topic today is based on a TED Talk that I saw years ago. It's titled How to Practice Effectively for Just About Anything. So I saw this years ago and I saw parallels in the way KMG's philosophy of teaching as well and training. So I definitely want to share this with you guys. So everyone's familiar with the term muscle memory. You'll hear the term muscle memory used a lot in sports, martial arts, all those similar environments, sporting or physical environments. But our muscles don't have memory. How it works is our brain sends electrical signals to our muscles through nerve fibers called axons. The axons are covered in a fatty substance called myelin. The myelin acts as a sort of insulation to prevent energy loss from the electrical signals sent and used by the brain. The repetition of motion or practice makes the myelin sheath thicker and creates more insulation around the axon. This creates an electrical signal superhighway between the brain and the muscles. So you can imagine the electrical signals being sent by the brain. If the axon, the myelin sheath is thicker on the axon, the faster those electrical signals go through and reach the muscles. So the thicker the myelin, the faster the signals travel, the faster we move, or we eventually achieve the mastery of that motion. Hence, we end up calling it muscle memory. So on a side note, with the muscles being triggered by electrical signals sent by the brain, but nonetheless electrical signals, this is basically how a CEW or conducted electrical weapon or taser, but taser is actually the brand, how it works. So the prongs would do a complete electrical circuit. That's why it has to be two. And as the voltage with low amps uh, goes through the body, it causes the muscles to all flex. So that's why you see people stiffen up when they're hit by a taser. Well, back to effective practice. So ways to practice effectively. So number one, focus. So make sure there are no distractions and you just concentrate on the task at hand. We don't notice it, but this happens in class. You go to class, you go to your Krav class, train with us. You don't have your phone with you. There's no TV that's on, and you're just focusing on what the instructor's teaching you, and you're doing the reps, you're training it. We jump into a summary drill, and you're focused for that 1 hour. You're focused on the class and learning what needs to be learned that day. So the neural pathway or series of axons are being used on specific muscles depending on the technique. So as you repeat and you repeat, that motion is established. And secondly, start slowly first when you're still learning the technique. And this is already what KMG does, in which where I found the parallels, one of the first few parallels as well. So I do this in class as well. When I teach in class, you'll hear me say, go slowly first, get used to the movement, get used to the technique, and once you're more familiar, we can gradually speed up. So once you've established the proper form as a foundation, then the succeeding repetitions are enforcing the proper movement or the proper technique. So as you're doing this, the myelin on the axons, which sends the signals from the brains to your muscles, as you're doing the techniques and doing the motion, they get thicker and thicker, and you gain efficacy on the movement of the technique. Frequent repetitions. So all martial arts classes will have been doing this for hundreds of years, especially the traditional martial arts. It's all repetition, repetition. You keep practicing. And you get to practice in class. Every time you go in class, you get your repetition. And if you notice, the students who attend class more often are the ones who improve more than the ones who attend less. One of the reasons for that is simply because they get the more repetitions. They get to do the repetitions. And of course, the myelin grows thicker and thicker on the axons, sends the signal from the brain to the muscles faster and more efficiently. It also, one of my philosophies in doing things slowly first is you get to establish the proper form. I always say once you start with the form, once you get the form, speed will naturally comes after form, and then from speed you'll get your power. But it's all based on that foundation on the proper form of the technique or the movement. And lastly, visualization. So once the physical motion has been established, you already know or are familiar with the movement or the technique. You can further reinforce this by imagining it in detail, in vivid detail, or visualizing it. So you're not physically doing repetitions on the technique, but if you are mentally in vivid detail doing the repetitions in your head, it also supplements or reinforces the familiarity with the technique, and it also serves the same purpose. The myelin thickens as well, so the brain doesn't differentiate whether you're physically doing it or if you're visualizing it. It's pretty much the same. You see parallels of this with the combat mindset instructor course. But then if you look at the old Max Krav Maga videos, which are probably at KMG University as well, you'll see AL having sections or uh, having sections on visualization. Him teaching visualization and also talking about visualization. So one of the things I do if I'm not able to physically train is that I go through the curriculum, and when I read the different sections and techniques, I'm visualizing the actual technique or the movement for it, like a movie in my head, while I'm also keeping in mind the specific checkpoints for the technique. So this also supplements your training and adds to your repetition count as well. So these are ways you can reinforce your learning and training. And as you practice and your repetition grows, your techniques will be faster and stronger. Simple as that. But it's not just blindly repeating. You have to have follow these methodologies that can make it effective practice for you. And as Bruce Lee said, I fear not the man who has practiced 10,000 kicks once, but I fear the man who has practiced one kick 10,000 times. He talks about effective practice here. To learn more KMG self-defense techniques, train with us at KravMagaSelfDefense.com.au.